pleading or, anything. They telling us that get out if or I kill somebody. And that's all they had to say. And we all was out in the front of the street just with the rest of our neighbor. And on that same day, a couple of hours later, kids are crying because they, were separate from their parents, and mom screaming for kid, and grandpa and grandma can't walk, and people are asking for water, and there was no organization to make sure you have water or food or anything. Just right away you're out of your house, and all we could do is carry what we can carry with our own hand. I imagine that the best way to describe it is like somebody come into your house and steal everything you had, but instead of rob you out of everything that you value, they actually tell you to leave the house. And that's what we did. And on that first night, we were sleeping basically on the roadside without any protection. And that day we walked all day. It was just like things happened so quick. And then we got to a certain point. They told us to leave the paved road, so walk off from the highway into the field, basically. And I remember walking toward the horizon. You don't see anything, just horizon. And as we get closer and closer, and it was a small communion. The place was so different than what I'm used to. By the time we get there, it was kind of dark. The smell's different, the sound's different. As a young kid, I was always grow up in the city. I never heard the sounds that I heard, and it just frightened. And we didn't have a place to stay. We were 13 of us were staying under somebody's hut for protection. And imagine like 2 days ago, I was sleeping on my bed with a mattress and pillows and all that, but in the next day, everything turned upside down. And I remember the smell, the strange smell. I can't even, just too different and too smelly. And I keep asking my mom, like, what's that smell, Mom? And my aunt would say, shh, quiet. You're giving your mom a hard time. She had enough to go through all the things that happened. And I wake up in the morning, I realized that the smell was cow pie that had been dried up, and they lit it, they set it on fire at night so that the mosquito won't bother us. So that was the smell of the dry cow pie. It's it just at that time, we in this village, this small commune, and people that lived there didn't want us there. And we didn't want to be there, but we were pushed together, and everything was so different. We used to have running water, and now whatever you need to do, it's all out in the open. It's not even an outhouse, just field. You need to, when nature calls, you're just out there. And it was just too different, too shocking. And they only have well, so you have to dig your bucket into the deep well and draw a little water at the time. It's just too crazy for us, live in the city, and it happened the next day. So within when we get there, these are my parents. But the thing is, I want to show this picture because once we get into that small town and everything started a little bit, they starting to target us, target people that if anybody who make a living before they took over the country without a break of sweat, you are a crook, you're a pig, because you were um, you have to have people working for you, and so they start to target anybody who had college degree, librarian, lawyers, and even the priests and the monk. And then for my parent, they were targeted because my father was a businessman. He had an import-export business between Cambodia and Thai and Singapore and Vietnam. But you look at his picture, you thought that, oh, he was born in a very comfortable family. But the fact is that my father was a son of a refugee, and being a son of a refugee to Cambodia at that time, there's no program to help you. So my grandparent keep him in the house so he can help them bring in money. So when he was old enough, he would help my grandmother to sell cake where his friend, in school studying. So my father never have spent a single day at school, because my grandfather was a refugee from China. He escaped communist China, and in fact, my mom didn't have any education either. At the time, when she was young, her father didn't want her to go to school because girls not supposed to go to school. So, but they work hard. Cambodian at that time, if you work hard, you will succeed. And by the time I know right from wrong, I never had to experience what they had to experience. But all that hard work that they work hard for, as soon as the communists took over, they took everything from them. And this is my family right before the communists took over. At the time I was 13, I have a younger brother who couldn't make it. He was 4 years younger than me. So as soon as, within weeks after we go to this remote place, we start to build our own hut. And this is the place that we built. And even though, I used to live in 2-story brick home with comfortable, we even have like helper, maids to live and help my mom working around the house and all that. And we had to build this hut for ourselves. It's such a small place, but and nothing compared to what we had. But it's a special place for me because it's the last place that they allow us to be together as a family. And also it's a place that we were starving together and praying for each other, encourage each other to never give up. So I had this place drawer and keep it in the book. So, so it's nothing in physical world, but it's a memory that, we survived together. And this place is like 3 queen size bed put together, all of us girls stay in this side with 3 walls, like to give us some privacy, and all the guys was like 2 walls, one on this side, one on the other side, and this is place where we eat together. And at first, when we left our house, we can only carry what we have with our hands, so we didn't have that much food. And then the government was gave us ration. So at first it was every day, then it was once a week. then after a while, we don't know when we're gonna have food. And by the time the ration keep reducing, my mom would decide to make that ration last. We don't know how when's the next one's gonna come. So among us, she would cook and give us like 1 tablespoon of rice per person per day. And I remember during the day we would going into the field, and my family never even been in the rice field before. And this time we work all day, standing, there's like water come up to our knee all day, like at least 12 hours a day. And then no break. And then by the time we come home, there's nothing to eat. And, the day after day, the starvation feel like, you know, it's just like you feel your stomach just twist and turn, not just being hungry, but hurts. The starving hurt. It just like all your internal twists and turn. It's like the stomach is trying to ingest itself. And we most of us, after we have our ration, we would just kind of sit quietly. There's no talking, there's no fighting, there's nothing to talk about. And at the time, I was thinking, look around and thinking which one of us would go first. And at night, I would pray that I never come back the next day. And when I do wake up in the morning, I start swearing at God, what did I do you know, to deserve this? And it go on, not for a couple of weeks, but for months. At first, I thought, the world would not let this happen. Then, nothing happened. It seems like all the hope is gone. Every day gone by, there's less hope and hope that we would just, we're not going to get any help. We either survive it or we die. Nobody else going to help release us from this atrocity. And, you think that, oh, well, all that terrible thing is the worst thing that ever happened to you. And the next day, think it worse. After all that starving and being sick, the next day, the next thing they did to us was to take us away from our parents. When they did that, the first time they came over and took my older sibling away, and I thought that, well, I was lucky. I was too young to be taken away from my parents, but that's not true. A couple of weeks later, they come and they took me away from my parents. I was working in the field, and they came over and they, stopped pointing their finger who they want to come with them, and all of my friend, all the kids about my age, just kind of, we all lined up behind the soldier. And there was no cry, no fight to be back, to be with your parents. And at that time, it was clear that if you start crying, that means you don't like what they do. And if you don't like what they do, you're against them, and they will take you away to be re-educated. They always said, when they took you away, they always said that, well, we're taking her away to train her, to re-educate her because she'd been corrupted and she didn't appreciate the new government. So we all lined up behind the soldier without any crying, any word. I remember I felt like I'm being hypnotized when they call me. It's like I cannot walk away from them, and I didn't want to walk away from my father. He was working in the field at the same time. But I remember I wish something happened. I wish you know, I got shot. I wish to die. I didn't want to live through this. And then when they walked me back to the field, they told us to go to a place and, get our stuff together. And I came to this hut and I started to realize that nobody there. My father was working and my younger brother was also um, tending the cattle, and my mom was sick. And I remember when my older sibling gone, my mom would be like, give them blessing, and everybody crying for them. And I felt like so desperate. I was there at this hut, and nobody, there to send me away. And I remember I stand by that little place where we eat and run my finger through the floor and just, I never thought that I could be back again to see the place, or could be back to be with my family again. Then I remember that I had to go and say goodbye to my mom. And they put her in the sick house. It's not a hospital where they treat you. It's just a place where they put all the sick people. You can't work, you go there. Either you're strong enough by yourself and get back out and go to work, or you die. And and that's it. You can't fight, you can't say no. So I walked to the sick house and have all of this idea, like what I'm gonna tell my mom, and how much I love her, and how much I fear, and maybe I'll say sorry to her, because if I've given her a hard time after all this year, I want her to forgive me, and all of that was in my mind, while I walking to say goodbye to her to the sick house. And when I got to the sick house, all I could do was cry. Not a word came out, just cry and cry and without any noise, because then you're not supposed to let them know you cry. So I was just tear and mucus and just choking. I can't breathe. It just all mixed up, and not a word came out. And my mom was very strong, and the fact that she was very strong, I was confused. I keep thinking in my mind, it's like, Mom, why don't you cry for me? Please cry for me, so I remember that you love me. But she couldn't. She didn't cry. And I remember many times she said that, later on, she said that she couldn't cry anymore because all her tear is drained, is dried up. But she did, I saw her and she couldn't stand she was sick. She couldn't stand very long, but she came to the stair and sent me off, and she reached over and touched my forearm and said that if God exists, we'll be together again. And that was my hope. So they sent me to the first labor camp, and it was a place that in the open, there's no shelter, or there's no tree, no water nearby. So they build shelter for us, but the dirt was we were basically sleeping on the dirt, and we got some hay to put on the floor, on the ground for us. And they were starting to tell us new rule of the land, the law of the land. They told us that your parents is most of our parents are bad influence. They still have the old capitalism mentality, which is not good for the country. And they said that we are supposed to be brother and sister, and so we don't We don't have things, whatever we have, we share. We don't have things that belong just us, just ourselves, individual. Oops, sorry. And then we're supposed to call each other comrade. So that they call me Comrade Lil, which I despise. Because my family called me Lil, and my mom called me little girl, and now I'm called Comrade Lil. And I just couldn't stand it. And we they told us the new law, how we should appreciate the government, because government gonna give us the future that all happy and all equal, no rich, no poor. And then at the same time, it was they told us another thing was that the law of the land was all girls need to keep our hair short above our neck, like, and I remember it hit me really hard because anything they said, I was like, yeah, yeah. Then when they said we need to cut your hair, I just thought about the last word that my mom said. She gave me hope that someday we might see each other again. But when they told me that they're gonna cut our hair, I just right away felt like, what else are they gonna do to us? Why does it matter if we have long hair or short hair? It was, to me, it was their way to tell us that we have no choice of who we are, what we want, and how we feel. And I lost all hope that I might see my parents again or my sibling again. But then they got us all lined up, to get our hair cut. And then, imagine this is in the open field. It's not like in a building with mirrors with, proper scissors. The scissor they cut our hair, it was make it from a cast iron. And they got us lined up and, take turn to sitting on the tree stump to cut our hair. And they came by and they said, they pointed at me and they said, you don't have to stand in line. And I was so happy. Not so much right away. I'm thinking, they tell me I don't have to stand in line because my hair was already short. And but that's not the thing that makes me happy was that they can't control me 100%. The situation, the fact that my hair was short, it gave me the hope that even though that is the law of the land, they cannot always control us. The situation that does not allow them to control me. It was a small victory that I had. Then I start thinking, yeah, but they can't control my thinking. I have wish, I have want, and they might, make me say what they want me to say with their propaganda. But within me, they can't control. They don't really know who I am. So that hope alone gave me that little winning alone gave me hope that maybe there is times that we can be free again and see each other. But also was the reason that I named my book the way it is, Short Hair Detention, is it was my way to want to communicate young children in our country right now to say to talk about the meaning of freedom, even the length of your hair has become the law of the land. And so it was, they actually moved from camp to camp and long labor long hours, not enough to eat, sometimes not water, not enough water. And at one point, they took me to deep in the jungle, and you can tell that the jungle has not been touched by many human being, because the the little snails and little crab that crawl around in the field, they don't look like snail or crab anymore, because they had, when they crawl around, I thought there's some different kind of critter, but actually the snail has, those animal has like algae, about an inch long on them, on their body. So when they move, the algae flow with the water. And deep in the jungle, they in, like, before the sun come up, we would have to step into the cold rain and walk in the water, sometimes come up to my chest, until we got to the work site, which is like 3 or 4 hours later. We work for about 1 or 2 hours, and then it's time to come back to the camp. So it's really, it really was not about productivity. It was about torture, and everybody in the country was doing basically the same thing. So the whole country was being treated like that. I never, during that 4 years, I never had spent a day reading or writing. They closed school, they closed market, they closed pagoda, temple, um, even hospital. Everything is just upside down. And then, in the middle of, when we come back, and I was being the youngest one in the team, I always stay behind because I'm not fast enough, and I get too weak and too tired, and people people look at me and they would say, they didn't think I survived, and they would say something like, "You look like a skeleton." And Cambodian is not very sensitive to their word, and I remember being frightened with that word. You know, um, it's not like you live in the house, you can see yourself in the mirror. There's no mirror. We live in the shack all the time. We live in the hut all the time, every day for those years. But how people look at me, I have this reflection on myself that I may not see my mom again. And I remember many times I felt like it would be easier if I stop eating, even though they don't give me enough ration, but I just stop eating. Then I would be gone sooner and don't have to deal with all this problem. But then I thought about my mom, how how she would react if if somebody, when she heard the message that I was killed, I die in the jungle. I imagine she would scream and she might go crazy. So for that alone, I at night I pray that I have a chance to die in my mom's arm. Just before I die, I just wanted to be comforted by her because she deserved that much. That's humanity. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are. You have the right to hold your baby. And I was determined to live just for that. Then I would be at peace and go. I'm not afraid to die. I just want to give my mom a chance to hold me when I'm gone. And that's what I live for, you know. And when these are all the young girl, when I trying to put a presentation together, I came across these young girls, and I wanted to share with you guys to have they make an impact on me. They didn't survive. The fact that they have number on them, chances that 99, 99, 100% chance they didn't survive. And so I'm here to speak not only my own personal story, but of what happened to them as well. This 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 picture was taken Chinese New Year, which is in February, and the communists took over in Cambodian New Year, which is April. So it's 2 months before they took over. And my hair was the same length through all those 4 years. And not an inch had grown. And for that 4 years, it's all because because of starvation. And I also remember when I look at the previous picture of the young girl that they call a criminal. I remember one time I didn't care what they're gonna do to me. I decided that I didn't want to live anymore. I just wanted to be with my parents. They're gonna kill me. They kill me. So I escaped from the camp, and I knew they're gonna look for me. So when I got to where my mom lived, I didn't go to her hut right away. I just stay in the bush and hope that they come over. They couldn't find me. They leave, and then maybe my mom took me. And it was just kid. I didn't think that it was simple. That's what I was hoped for. But when I got to my mom's place hut, and she didn't know I was there, but I hid in the bush, and then they came and searched the hut, and and I watched the whole thing I'm watching somebody else's story. But then one of the soldiers found me, and he yelled, and he told me to come out from the bush. And I planned, I'm not going to do anything they tell me. I don't care. If they kill me, they kill me. And the guy grabbed me and yanked me out the bush and threw me into the hard dirt floor. It was like a cement, in the summer, in the hot season in Cambodia, in that clay dirt floor. He threw me there. And the next thing I know, I feel all this impact, my hair being pulled, and a kick on the ribs, and yelling, all different kind of yelling, but I was ready to go. And I feel that it was like an impact, but it was not painful. And I couldn't see anymore. I feel cold and I couldn't see, but I could hear. And I imagined the angel pet my head, my hair, and say, everything's gonna be okay. And then I hear this loud voice, a painful voice screaming, and it was my mom's voice. And I forgot, I didn't want that to happen to her, so I fight to come back. And when I did, they tied me up, and it was just, when I talk about this, it's not what they did to me that's painful. It's what they did to my mother. It's painful. Imagine how she felt, and imagine, you have your children being beat in front of you just because they want to be with you. They took me back to the camp and tied my hand in the rope and walked me up around the camp. And then after that, no girl wanted to talk to me. Anyway, so I spent there 4 years. It seems like, 40 years in hell. But then I came to United States in 1979 after 4 years, and I was told to go to high school, and I didn't think it was possible. But this is my ESL teacher, and after I learned some English with her, a couple months later, I saw a program on TV about Helen Keller, and I remember telling my mom how my teacher was kind of like Miss Sullivan, the way she, teach Anne Callan how to feel her throat and all that. So I'm still stay in touch with my ESL teacher after I published my book. She, uh, I was connected with her by my high school, so we stay in touch this day. And the other thing that I learned for my English, I remember reading anything there's a word I read. I trying to learn English. Then I read street sign. I read anything, trying to put words together. And Sesame Street, yeah. And this is my city library. I went back after I published my book, and they actually um, put my book into one of this, I forgot what it's called. There's a program for only Nebraskan publisher, and they have a room upstairs just to as a collection for all that. So we had a nice ceremony. I remember when the concept of library was new to me in Cambodia when I was going to school. We don't have library. We go to a place where we can rent book. And if you read it right in that place, the price is cheaper than you rent it and take it home. So when there's a library, it was like, I have no idea, that it's so generous, So I would sneak into children's section and sit in the corner and read my book when I was studying ESL at the same time. It's my counselor. I actually graduated with scholarship to go to university, and it was 2 scholarship, and they weren't like a full scholarship anything, but there was a scholarship that mean a lot to me. It's not just financial help, but also encouragement, motivation. It's a trust that somebody think that you can do it, and it helps me through my college many times. I graduated from UNL and I got my master in applied math, work as an engineer in the aerospace industry. And the slide that I show you right now, for the most part, is showing it. I presented to junior high students and high school students, and I just wanted to let them know that each one of us is much stronger than we think we are. Because before the communists took over, I was really bad in math. But when I came to this country, because I've gone through such a terrible thing, I felt like I can overcome anything. And that alone let me achieve all different things that this country had to offer. And this future combat system was significant to me. It was this time that I decided to become a leader and engineer instead of just individual contributor. And I wanted to share that part of a decision that we all make, and we do our best to reach it. So it's good to have a goal for each one of us. Okay, so And I spent the last 10 years as an engineer in the biotech industry. This is instrument where people take, it's called flow cytometer. It takes a blood sample and help the oncologist diagnose and treat cancer patients. So I published my book in 2017 and got a few recognition, which is very helpful in terms of making sure that the story is continued to be told. I felt like if we don't tell our story, where we come from, what happened to us, things that happen to us might happen again. So I continue to do the best I can to communicate and share my story, especially to young adults. 10 years ago, I started my own Cambodian food manufacturer and received multiple awards. From that awards, it allowed us to be in many specialty market across the country. And I also have my own takeout and delivery restaurant. I opened a couple months ago. This last slide, I just wanted to share that I'm very grateful to be in this, to be a refugee in the United States. This organization has given me and support me to do my best and live the American dream. And I wanted to say thank you, everyone here, for the opportunity for me to share my story. So I think right now, if you have any question, I can, should I stop sharing screen?
Thank you, Channy. Yes, you can go back so we can see you
Okay.
again on the screen. Thank you so much. What a powerful story. One thing that you just said was so true. You are much stronger than you think you are. So much that you've gone through is really amazing. And then to see you now and all of your accomplishments, I certainly commend you and congratulate you on everything that you've done. Wow, that was really moving. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat or the comment section and I can address them. If you'd like to ask the question yourself, you can just open up your camera, whichever is most convenient, but sure, we're open for comments or questions. How were you able to be freed is a question that I see.
Well, in 1979, in that summer, Vietnamese troop actually invaded Cambodia. When the Khmer Rouge was controlling the country, and with that chaos, we took the opportunity to escape from the Khmer Rouge, and we came across to Thailand and stay in Thailand camp, refugee camp, until we get help from UNICEF and our local church that sponsor us to Lincoln, Nebraska.
So when you were in Nebraska, what did you do? Having come from where you were and no education, what did you do and where did you go in Nebraska?
Yeah, well, when I got to Lincoln, Nebraska, I was told to go to school, and I was thinking, well, it makes sense because I didn't understand any English, and when they told me that I'm not going to school with just learning English, I'm going to go to school with an American kid, I was almost throw up because it's like,
Yeah.
what am I going to do with new system, new culture, new language, and but they told me that that was the law of the land, and just came back, just escaping the Khmer Rouge. You do what you're told, So I didn't think that I could make it, but I have to do it. And my teacher, they seems to have their own agenda to make sure that this girl know how to read, write English, and graduate from high school. And there was a lot of dedication from them, to help us out. And I felt like that first person that you met that helped you to assimilate to this country, it defined your whole future in this country. They were so kind to us, so understanding, so you know, generous, that all I do during that time is just to make sure I don't disappoint her. If I have
Mm.
homework, I do homework, you know. So one thing lead to another. It make a big difference in terms of that first few people you met. How's your life's gonna be in the new world?
And Channy, you said you were open to any question, no matter how painful or deep it is. But can you speak about what happened to your brother, or do you know what happened to him? You said he didn't make it.
Well, yeah, he in 1978, uh, a year before we all, you know, a year before the Khmer Rouge disappeared, my father decided to escape the country. And when he made that decision, he was gonna take my brother with him. And my brother at the time he was 12 years old, and he he knew that, you know, dad was gonna take him, and he came to me, and he was frightened. You know, he didn't want to go. He came to me and tell me that tomorrow they're gonna, you know, they don't want to. He came to me and said tomorrow he's gonna go with dad, and I knew what that meant, and I was willing to accept that I'm not gonna go. You know, thinking for myself. And then I didn't. I thought he would be happy or excited because, you know, every one of us looking for an opportunity to escape, because living under that year after year of starvation, you'd rather die, you know. And he came to me and shaking his voice, and I reached out to hold his hand. They were cold, and he told me that he's scared. And I told him that, are you crazy? I wish dad take me. And he escaped with my dad, and they never make it.
Mhm.
And I it's hard for me to forgive myself, because I felt like if I didn't think about myself and listen to him, and he said he's scared, I should have said, well, go hiding. You know, don't meet that. You know, he would have been okay.
I hear you speaking, and it seems like you're taking the blame for a number of things that occurred. And it makes me wonder, are you or did you seek any type of mental health assistance to get you through all of this, to help you understand that things that occurred were not your fault at all?
No, I didn't. I think part of it because my mom was with us for a long time. You know, she was with us. You know, through college, through through my, you know, through the time my kid was young, and I remember many times she would be sad and depressed, and I would listen to her pain, and sometimes I cry with her, but for the most time I would tell her, you know, look at all the bright thing, look at all the happy thing. You came here as a single mom. All your kids are, you know, responsible adult. You have beautiful grandkids. All the good thing. Don't be sad, mom. And I just realized that after she passed away, all the thing that she felt sad and thinking about what happened, it landed on me. You know, I felt like I was fine because she was the cornerstone of preventing me from going so far to remember all that pain. And I think that part of my healing was to complete the book. And I read the books to her when I took care of her in intensive care. So I felt like part of me sharing the story. For the longest time, I couldn't share a story without crying every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But now I felt like it's become more like a story instead of a painful thing to go through.
Mhm.
So I think by talking and sharing and let people know, I think you guys are receiving the pain that help me take away the pain.
Absolutely, my goodness. We're going to go just a few minutes over our time because we started a little bit late. I do have a question here from Dan. It says, is there anything happening in the world today that reminds you of what led to what happened in Cambodia? Different question.
Well, I think it's closer, not in the world today, but closer to home. It's what happened, um, the chaos that happened in America today. The uh, the riot during uh, the last few months. The
Mhm.
last year, kind of remind me of what happened in Cambodia before the communists took over. Not for the same reason, but for the chaos. People um, that didn't like the government at the time that is in power, they find any excuse to overthrow government, and the extremists on both parties is not going to help the country. I look at what happened today in our country. I felt like we're living in a very a broken home. It's like we have two government that are not getting along. It's like living in a house where two parents doesn't get along, and it's uh, very discouraging. And we need to talk about things that are good instead of talk about things that are so bad. As long as we don't repeat those bad things, there's nothing we can do about or sometime thing in the past.
Mm.
And I really believe in I'm Buddhist in general, but I really believe in Christianity of forgiving. And I think if we had to not forget the past, but we cannot reliving the pain and keep bring it to the front. We have to forgive
Mm.
for both.
Okay. I have another question. Someone wants to know what family members survived. Okay.
Well, so my father and my younger brother didn't make it. The rest of us, we survived and came here. My mom, I told you she didn't have a chance to spend time at school, but she learned English in this country in nighttime, at church. And by the time she get her citizenship, she was doing it without a translator. So she was very proud of that.
Mm.
And both three of us are engineer, and one of us is a shop owner. So we
That's amazing. That's so beautiful, Channy. How
yeah,
difficult was that? I mean, you can't compare what you went through to this. I guess it was piece of
yeah,
cake to become an engineer, huh?
it was hard, but when you think about, oh, there's nothing compared to what we have to go through, right?
Yeah.
So all that's why I would keep telling people, especially young kids, it's like, don't label yourself. Just do and go try your best. Ask yourself what you really want and set that goal for yourself, and don't let anybody else, distract you from it.
Did the
That
experiences with your siblings draw you closer together now or farther apart? You went through such
well, we're
things that kept you
becoming
separate all
American
the
and we're
time.
fighting. No, just kidding. um, I think it's it's definitely we hardly talk about it.
Hmm.
Yeah, and but it's definitely affect how we raise our children. Yeah, we're close, we're together and helping each other, but um, I don't think the experience make us like that. I think it's our culture and the way we brought up. But definitely our experience, for me anyway, when my daughter wanted to skip school one semester. I was frantic, she was in college. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm afraid she wouldn't finish school and all that. Then I thought thinking, wait, I was out of school for 4 years, right? So it kind of made me be more relaxing. Yeah. So, and she did okay. My daughter got her doctorate degree in pharmaceuticals, and our son got his bachelor degree in finance. So he's doing okay.
Very good.
Yeah.
Channy, how soon after you left Cambodia did things change or improve, or what are the conditions like there now?
Oh, right now.
How long after you left did things change? What did things just end, or I don't really know how?
I think after I left, it was like many years, like maybe like 10 years, when we started to hear back from people in Cambodian, and think they open up the country and people visit, and just not as much as now, but they were still in the dark, like we can't talk to them. We can write letters. I think we didn't write letter until like 5 years later. There was no system to receive letters. Yeah, and then they got better. I think they're doing great now. I mean, some people still have their own preference, but I think it's better than what it was. I would like to go, but it's just.
I was going to ask, had you ever been back or desire?
No, I haven't. I haven't been back. I would love to. I love. I don't hold grudge on anybody, but it was just my own personal experience that it's. When I think about going, it's just kind of hard to imagine. So
Sure.
not gone back yet.
That's understandable for sure.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any more questions? Please we'll open it up. If not, we're gonna wind things down. But I do want to re-mention, because we're having some technical difficulty a little bit in the beginning, mentioning the book again, Short Hair Detention, and it is available at the Novi Public Library if you'd like to check it out, or you can purchase it, or you can purchase it on Amazon as well. And
I have the book.
you holding the book? Or hold it up. I know we saw some pictures of it. Where is it? Kent, where are you?
Laptop. There you go.
Or was it holding up your laptop?
Yes.
There it is. There's the
book.
That's you at you're 13. Well, how old are you on the picture on the cover there? Is that
13.
13 on the
13.
cover?
And you know what's funny is when I came to this country, my one of the few friends, my first few friend, one of my first friend that met me, she gave me a book of Anne Frank, and there's a children version of it. I remember reading that book. Why did she give me that book? I read that book and with the dictionary next to me, and I read through it, and I started to realize what happened, and I was just kind of shocked that things that happened to me happened before to a different person before me. And I was thinking, at that time, it's like, why is, blaming the adult? Now we are adult. Why the adult let this happen again and again, right? So, and it's later on, my one of my colleagues told me after she read my book that she, when she learned about the Holocaust and what happened to Jewish family during the concentration camp, she went back home after high school to confront her parents. And she said, why didn't you do something? And she told me that her parents said they didn't know about it. And while she was doing that, while she confronting her parents, she realized now that she didn't know what happened to me. Right? She's trying to say, when I was starving, what was she doing? she was confronting her parents, like, why didn't you do something? Meanwhile, she was doing the same thing because she didn't know. That alone that made me want to say, we have to keep talking about it,
For sure.
because if we don't, then eventually maybe somebody said it's a makeup or something not real.
Mhm. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Channy? Before we wrap things up?
Well, I would
I
like
do know
to.
Dan, he put a comment in, and exactly what I was going to say. I'll save it. Sure.
Okay.
Go on, Channy. I'm sorry.
Okay. I would like to ask you guys to help me spread the word of my of what happened in Cambodia, and there's a few things that you can do. Help, take time to review the books, and also if you know any high school that want to hear my story, any group that want to benefit from hearing my story. It's so easy now, right? I don't have to travel. You can get online with Zoom. And so I think that would help.
Very good. And we are, this is on Facebook Live right now. So if you are interested, you can also put a question in the chat. My connection is ganderson@novilibrary.org. You can email me and I can give you the contact to Channy. If you want, you can also type it in the chat, or I can, for the people who are here on Zoom, or either way, we can get you out the information so you can assist in spreading the word for Channy. And once again, I ask, if you read the book, put a good review on Amazon and on Goodreads as well. That's very helpful to continuing to get the word out. Also, I wanted to say before, let's see, what did it say? Oh, someone has a question. How did you get any pictures back? How do you get any pictures back?
How do I get any picture?
Yes.
So the picture that I had on the cover of the book was I gave it to my aunt. She escaped the country before the communists took over, and she lived in Paris. So that's why we got some picture from there. And that question is a good question, because many of us destroy our own picture because we don't want to be, especially if we were well-to-do before the communists took over, because that would be the evidence that we were educated, or we were businessmen, or yeah.
Very good. I see some comments here. Your story encourages others to share your story. You're right. We do not want this history to ever repeat. It's a comment that's on Facebook, and they also say thank you and bless you. A number of positive comments on Facebook. And as we close, I do want to read Dan's message here, and it says, may you find peace in knowing that we care about you and we wish you all the best. And that is the sentiments of my heart as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening for this powerful, wow, I'm still crying. That's just really something and deep. And I'm going to reread the book. I read through it a little bit, but now I'm going to take the time out and read it word for word, because now I can put a picture, a face to it, and the experience that you shared is so moving and important to us today, that we are more aware of what people experience and your success through it all. I hope you are encouraged to continue on. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in with us this evening, worked with us through the little technical issues, and but we made it through. It was worth it, wasn't it? And I appreciate you all, and have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you, everyone.
Channy, you can hang on just a second.
Okay.